I'm trying to think of all the times that it has happened to me where something doesn't go right and you're scrambling and trying to find alternatives and you were already way ahead of them.
My phone is in my pocket or on my desk or beside my head when I go to sleep at night, because I've had clients call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. They got to Rio, but their luggage didn't make it, and they're getting on a cruise ship. American Airlines had no idea where their luggage was. I spent 5 days finding their luggage. And then it was hung up in customs. So we had to fly an employee down to claim their luggage, walk it through customs, and to fly it to Ushuaia. And my client called me and he goes, I have no idea what you did, but our luggage is here and I've never been so happy to see my luggage in my life. And I said, I'll tell you all about it when you get home.
I'm Garrett Wong, and this is the Investing to Win podcast. How do you define success, and what does winning look like for you? Rodney, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here.
This is going to be a fun episode. So audience, normally, of course, we're going to be talking about real estate and investing, and I thought I'd take a little bit of a detour here. Rodney George is in the travel industry, and I just came back from vacation, so this is a perfect segue. But before we talk about what Rodney offers his clients, Rodney, can you kind of go through a bit of a background about yourself?
Sure. I spent most of my life in the financial services industry. I was a financial advisor for right at 30 years. Retired at 55. Was just going to, I was single at the time, was just going to relax, play golf, travel. And that worked for about 6 months. I got a phone call from a friend of mine who was doing some consulting work, and I managed to take what he was doing and take it to a big wirehouse that I had retired from. And we did a consulting project there for 2 years. And after that, 08 hit, and the market, of course, did one of these. And so I decided I better start trying to work on my golf game, but I never could get good enough. My friends were always taking my money away. So I said, I got to find something else to do. And a good friend of mine said, why don't you go to work for a travel agency? You've been all over the world. And I said, well, I don't really want to work for anybody the rest of my life. He goes, well, then start your own. And so that was 17 years ago. And we've grown to an agency where there's 10 of us now, and a little over 200 years of travel experience. I managed to recruit some top people in the industry away from various firms over the years, and we're just killing it, having a great time, helping people plan incredible vacations on all 7 continents and all 7 oceans.
Wow. Why don't you back up a little bit and tell me why, travel, you said that your friend had said you travel all over the world. What ignited that passion?
I think as a result of being in the financial services industry, and both the combination of incentive trips and the financial wherewithal to travel and to travel well, I thought I had a lot to offer to people, because I'd seen the best and the worst from the world of travel, and it really doesn't cost that much more to do things first class, and most people don't know that. Most people think if they get on the internet, they can find the best deals, they can put it all together themselves. But one example that proved it to me in spades, my wife and I, 15 years ago, right after I started the agency, we decided we were going to go to the Society Islands, Tahiti, Bora Bora, Moorea. And while we were on Papeete, which is Tahiti, we rented a car one day, and she had 12 things that she wanted to see. Garrett, how many of those you think we found in the course of a day in our own rental car?
Couple?
0.
Oh, okay, there you go.
And that proved to me in spades that we need to get some expertise about this world of travel, because when you travel that far and you go 0 for 12, it kind of gives you a sick feeling. So I learned the hard way that we had to ramp up, and we hired people. We have, in addition to the travel advisors that we have a couple of ladies that do nothing but concierge work, and that takes things to a whole new level for our clients.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels. Again, I just came back from vacation. It wasn't too complicated. I just kind of went west here in Canada to Banff and Canmore, Alberta, which is obviously very beautiful. I think when you're going to different destinations, there is, I mean, obviously people can look on the internet or you take a cruise and you have all these excursions laid out for you. But what you just said there, I mean, is that one of the things that a travel consultant can do versus the average everyday person?
Yeah, because most people just they think they have a list of things and places they want to see, but they really don't know how to access those places. For example, we were on a cruise and we were in Florence, Italy, and we wanted to go to the Uffizi Museum, and so we had a guide. And when we walked up to the door, he gave the guy our tickets. We walked right in. There was a line all the way down the street and down the next street. And we walked right in. We did our hour and a half tour. We came out, and people from our cruise ship were still standing in line. And I'm guessing they were paying almost the same thing we paid, but we had a guide that knew how to get things done. And that's the expertise that we offer all over the world. It's funny you should mention Banff. I have 4 clients in Banff today. They did the Rocky Mountaineer, and of course, your railroad went on strike last week. And so instead of taking the rail from Kamloops to Banff, they had to do it in a motor coach, and they weren't real happy about it. And I said, just wait till you get to Banff. You'll be very happy you went.
No, there's when I'm thinking of those lines, so let's go back to the cruise for a second there. And I'm jumping all over a little bit, but I just wanted to expand that a little bit. You're like, when you go on a cruise, again, there's these excursions, you can stand in line, you can sign up for them. Are you saying that you hired a private guide that
Yes.
wasn't an excursion?
That's right, because I find that we live in an area, Naples, Florida, where people have the 2 key elements for as far as we're concerned. They have the time and the financial wherewithal to travel, and they want to travel well. And you put somebody, if I put one of my clients in a 2-hour line outside of a major museum that they just had to see, they would not be happy campers. So you have to know the workarounds, if you will. You have to know how to get into the I'm having a senior moment here in Rome, the
Colosseum?
the Catholic Church.
Okay.
You have to know how to get in there at night, and it's a very special tour because it's you and maybe a dozen other people instead of a few hundred or a few thousand people. So it makes all the difference in the world when you know how to take and get things done the way that people would like to do. And the incremental cost of doing it that way versus riding on a motor coach with 54 of your best friends is very, very minimal. The Vatican, that was what I was trying
The Vatican,
to think
okay.
of.
Yeah, that's quite all right. Okay, let's back up a little bit. Try to get some structure here because I get super excited about travel. It's one of the reasons I work so hard is to travel. So from a business perspective, tell me a little bit about the company, how you started, and the scaling of it. Bring us along that journey.
Well, originally, I just intended it for something for me to do, just to occupy a few hours of my day. And I saw right away that there was a much bigger need there. We started out with a franchise type operation, and we thought that was the way to go, and too many restrictions, too many constraints. So we went with an independent, it's called a host agency. It's like your wholesale access to the travel marketplace. And that worked really good for about 3 years until we really started to ramp up, and they have no systems or back office support. So we started shopping around, and we found another franchise operation that had more technology than I even know how to use. And we've been with them for over 10 years now. As a matter of fact, they have 3,000 franchises, And we're almost always month in, month out, year in, year out. We're in the top 3 to 5 agencies in the country. And that's because of the talent that we have in working with people here and our clients, they may winter in Naples, but they live all over the world. So, and we work with them no matter where they happen to be.
Okay. Well, walk me through a typical experience. I know there's so many. Family of 4 that want to go away for a week to Disney World. Okay. Well, we'll pick on Florida. Okay. Mom and dad start looking on the internet for discount airfares, right? And then they start looking around for tickets, and maybe they know what to do, what not to do. Can you kind of differ what you guys might do for them?
Well, I'll tell you in general how we do. I don't do any Disney because my clients don't do Disney. We have a lady in our office that does all the Disney, so she just takes care of it. So I should have asked her to come on. But in general, we spend time finding out what the client wants to do, why it's important to them, how they decided on whatever that destination might be. In this case, you mentioned Disney. And what are all the must-dos, the should-dos, the nice-to-dos on that vacation? And many times they don't know. They just know that they want to go to Disney or that they want to go to the Amalfi Coast of Italy. They have a pretty limited spectrum. So we have a whole host of questions that we go through then to help them really fine-tune and tweak what's important to them about their vacation. And I have clients come back. I had a family of 12. They did 4 of the Greek Isles in 15 days. They wanted to charter a yacht, but there were 13 members of the family. And in Greece, you can only have 12 fare-paying customers on a yacht. And so we had to move them about using fast ferries from point to point. The mom, the matriarch in the family, she knew that this whole thing was just going to be a horror story. And when she came back, actually, our PR firm did a case study on them, and she said, "I could not believe it. 13 family members, 15 days, 4 islands in Greece, and not one thing fell through the cracks."
Okay, so let's scrap Disney for a second because my kids are older now. When you are planning one of these trips for folks, you said you're going through some kind of questionnaire, and they're just picking a destination. How do you guys know so much about that destination?
Well, when you have 200 years of experience in your office, and there are very few places in the world that I have not personally been, but we have people that, like we have a lady in our office who's from Sweden. So all the Nordic states, she knows that like the back of her hand. And she still speaks she has a very thick accent still, and she's lived in the United States for over 40 years. So we just have, it's almost like Mission Impossible. I don't know if you're probably too young to remember that show, but Peter Graves would have all the pictures out of all the people, and he would pick the ones that he needed for that project. Just this morning, we booked a Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand trip with some really great clients. We booked a honeymoon, an over-the-top honeymoon for a new client. And this is all just, okay, what do you know about this? I sent an email to everybody I wanted to have involved, and they gave me their input. So when the client came in, we had everything ready to go based on a prior meeting that we had had. So we spend a lot of time trying to find out what's important to them about this particular vacation. And we encourage them to have what some people call it a bucket list. We call it an experience list. I have a friend who's a public speaker, and she says, a bucket list is a list of things to do before you die. And she goes, I find that very negative.
Oh, that's fair. Okay, so you go through, you find out what their wants and needs are, and then what happens next?
Well, we talk a lot about what their budget is, and a lot of people don't have a budget. They go, it's whatever it costs. We just want to do it first class, and our parameters. And so then we start to pull all the pieces together. How are we going to get there? Well, that's probably going to take an airplane. What category of service do we want? Well, most of our clients fly business or first class, so we know that. And then it's merely a matter of putting together point to point where they're going to travel and finding the hotels and the category of rooms that they want. And then we start to put in all the little pieces. What are you going to do when you're there? Well, we want to do a cooking class, a couple of wine tastings, and we'd love to get on a boat and do the Blue Grotto or whatever it might be. So we really listen to them, but we give them a lot of suggestions if they haven't been there before. They don't know about the Blue Grotto.
Okay. I'm going to go back a little bit here because travel, I mean, I'm a little bit naive here, but I kind of thought the travel industry in terms of agents was kind of a dying breed, or are what you offer a little bit different than a travel agency?
Well, that's a great question, and it's actually one of the points in our 5 myths. We have a white paper called 5 Myths About Travel Advisors, and that's one of them. That I don't need a travel advisor; I've got the internet, and it's kind of like I always ask people that think, I can do this myself. Well, when was the last time that you did something for the very first time and you did it perfectly? I mean, we're talking about a trip that you're going to spend thousands of dollars, and you don't want a lot of surprises. Most people don't want any surprises. The one thing that a lot of people don't know is, you brought up a cruise. So if you pick up the phone and call the cruise line, or you call us to book a cruise, the pricing is going to be probably exactly the same. The cruise industry controls pricing like Apple does. For example, if you want to buy an Apple computer, you're probably not going to find anybody that's discounted because Apple will take away their ability to sell their products. Cruise lines are pretty much the same way. Tour operators that do land vacations, pretty much the same way. One of the biggest tour operators in the world refuses to do business with one of the major membership kind of stores because they do rebates back to the customers, which is illegal and really frowned on in the travel industry. But the price of that trip's going to be about the same, if not exactly the same. What we bring to the table are the things to do, the things to stay away from. And usually, because we're part of Signature Travel Network is one of the largest consortiums of travel advisors in the world. And oftentimes they'll panic over the weekend because they want to get a particular room, and they'll book something, and they'll come into the office on Monday or Tuesday and say, hey, I booked this over the weekend. I know there's something you can do to take this booking over. And almost without exception, we're always able to add additional perks, shipboard credits, free this or free that, just because of the buying power that we have as a part of Signature Travel Network.
What about plane fare, though? I mean, are there any discounts there, or is it the same?
Airfares, if you're flying outside the country, we use what are called air consolidators, where they go to the airlines and they buy millions of dollars worth of seats on planes. And oftentimes we're able to purchase flights for our clients that are anywhere from $200 or $300 to $700 or $800 less than they are by booking direct with the airline.
Okay. Because you mentioned first class. I've been overseas a few times, Hawaii even. I know that's technically overseas, I guess, but it's such a long flight. And to be able to do it in business class or first class would have been wonderful. But of course, I'm looking at the dollars and cents. How do you bridge that gap? Are you saying that you can almost make it affordable for a family?
Well, business class is always going to be somewhere between 2 and 4 times what it costs to sit in the back of the plane. But most people that are traveling that are traveling with us kind of have that mentally built into what their thinking is. Also, there's a lot of cruise lines now that in the price of the cruise is your business class airfare. And if you decide you want to book your own airfare, they just give you a credit. And the credit is never enough for you to go buy your own tickets. So they're buying airfares even further in advance. There is a disadvantage to doing the cruise air, and that is that if there's a problem while you're flying and a flight's canceled or something, you have to get in touch with the cruise line. You can't just go stand in line at the airport with everybody else because your airfare was booked with the cruise line. You've got to get in touch with somebody at the cruise line to rebook you. So if you have a hiccup along the way, it can be a little bit of a hassle. So we tell the clients that there's 3 ways you can buy your tickets. You can go buy them yourself direct from the airline. We can use one of our 3 air consolidation companies, or we can use the provider, whether it's a cruise or a tour operator. They almost always will have a way to build the airfare in. And there's advantages and disadvantages that we go over with each one of those. Ends up being whatever the client would like to do.
Okay. And I'll ask a business question. How do you guys make your money?
Most of it is commissions, and the commissions are paid direct from the vendor. It does not affect the price. So if you call up, for example, if you call up Regent 7 Seas Cruises and you book a cruise and then you call me and ask me what my price would have been, the price is going to be the same. You say, well, what happens? What's Regent do with the commissions if they're not having to pay you? They pocket it. You're not going to save the commission by going direct to anyone that I'm aware of in the travel industry. If we have a very complicated scenario where we have 10 or 15 or 20 people moving about and we've got to plan this, we sometimes will charge a fee for our services, but usually that fee, once everything is booked and said and done, we'll usually reverse or return all or significant portion of the fee that we charge. The fee, more than anything else, is to make sure that the people are serious and that we're not going to spend, hours and hours of our life planning this trip and for them to walk away.
No, that's fair. Okay, so I'm starting to see the economics of it because I think a lot of people think that they have to pay a travel consultant X amount of dollars to plan these things for you. If I could summarize then, it doesn't cost anything extra because you guys are being paid by commission from some of these suppliers, and yet you bring the expertise into knowing what to do, where to do it, and how to get some of these other things that maybe somebody wouldn't have even thought of doing.
Right. As a matter of fact, someone with a major cruise line told me the other day that almost 70% of their business still comes from travel advisors. So
wow.
You say you didn't realize that they were still out there. A lot of travel agencies folded up their tent back 20-something years ago when the airlines stopped paying commissions, because all they were doing was sitting there running airline tickets all day long for a 7, 8, 9% commission, and they didn't have to give any thought to it at all. I mean, it was a 5 or 10 minute transaction, and they made a few dollars and onto the next person. And a lot of them didn't really know anything about the world of travel that was out there beyond booking airline tickets.
Okay. So tell me about this franchise that you're involved in now. You said it's been almost a decade. How does it differ from your previous experience?
I think the biggest difference is the technology that we have on our desktop to run our business. The director of IT at Cruise Planners is second to none. I mean, he's literally one of the top guys in the travel industry. And the things that he thinks of and the way that he puts things together just makes it incredibly easy to do business. 4 of my agents came from a national company. And when they came in to interview with us, and we did a series of interviews because we wanted to make sure that they were going to fit with us and want to make sure that they felt this was a positive move for them. And when we started showing them the ease of generating a proposal, the ease of making a booking, the ease of generating an invoice to send to your client, they were blown away. And they were with a company that has offices in all 50 states, and yet they didn't have that kind of capacity on their desktop to make life simple so they could get things done efficiently, get it done correctly, and move on to, the next client.
Well, I would guess if you're talking about team members who have to spend more time, in paperwork and things like that, they have less time to put the energy into the actual planning of the vacation.
Yeah, I seldom will you see a piece of paper on my desk. It's all electronic. Everything's filed, and it's on servers that are at multi-locations all over the globe. So if one goes down, the other picks right back up. And it's all right there. I can access, if you were a client, I can access your records from if I'm sitting at lunch with somebody else. As long as somebody at the table's got a phone, I can pull up your profile, and I can pull up your trip, and I can tell you when your final payment is done or when it's due and what excursions you've booked. I mean, with a phone, an iPad, a computer, I'm in business anywhere in the world.
No, that's wonderful. You mentioned how you were, how many interviews you do to attract and retain your team members. Can you walk me through that a little bit? I mean, what makes an ideal travel consultant?
Well, I'm looking for someone who, first of all, makes an incredible first impression. I've always operated on the fact, even though I got this wild, goofy shirt on today, that you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And I want people who are smart, who are articulate, and who understand the luxury segment of the travel industry. Had a lady come to us not too long ago, right out of college, and she wanted to be in the travel business so bad she couldn't stand it. But that's not a fit for us. I can't take that kind of risk because I want someone that if a client walks in and they sit down across the desk from one of our advisors, they're going to know within the first 5 to 7 minutes, this person really knows what they're talking about. I mentioned executive concierge earlier, Garrett, and once I put a booking together and the client has signed off on it and we've done whatever financial deposits need to be done, I push it across my desk and it goes to one of our executive concierges, who then starts to follow up on all the things that can happen between now and when they come home. I'm still available if the client wants to talk to me, but they love working with our concierge because they are hands-on. They're going to take care of making sure that that the airfare is taken care of, that the travel protection insurance is taken care of, that the excursions or side trips or anything else they want to do. And they're going to work with that client until they return from their vacation. And then they either make or hand to me to make the phone call to talk to the client as to what their experience was, because we always want to get feedback, good or bad, want to get feedback.
You said something. I had just written down a question. You took it right out of my mouth. Emergencies, things that don't go well when they're over there, right? Wherever that destination might be. Walk me through some of those things that a travel consultant can do versus mom and dad trying to do things on their cell phone.
Well, for example, you mentioned Banff, and I've got clients that are up there. And of course, there was a big fire at Jasper,
of course,
last week. I think you'd have to been from another planet not to know about that fire. But they got off of a cruise, an Alaskan cruise, on the 21st. We're scheduled to start their trip on the Rocky Mountaineer, which is a great experience if you've never done that, the next day. And all of a sudden, you had a rail strike on top of the fires, now a rail strike. I mean, it's just like Rocky Mountaineer. They've had 6 weeks of dealing with catastrophe after catastrophe. So they call me the afternoon of the 21st after they had gotten off their ship there in Vancouver and said, what are we going to do? The railroads are on strike. Well, I'd already been on with Rocky Mountaineer, and I said, okay, here's what they're going to do. They're going to take you by train tomorrow morning from Vancouver, and you're going to go to a place called Kamloops. And Kamloops is a mandatory service stop for the train. So you're going to spend the night in Kamloops. And the next day you would normally get up and do day 2 on the train, but the train can't operate on that section of track. So they're going to take you, instead of 8 hours on the train, they're going to put you on a motor coach, which is 6 hours, and you're going to go ahead and go to Banff. You're going to spend your 2 nights in Banff, and you were scheduled to go motor coach to Chateau Lake Louise anyway, so they're going to take you by motor coach to Chateau Lake Louise to the fabulous Fairmont Hotel. You're going to spend 2 nights there. Then you're going to go back to Banff for a couple of nights, because that would originally been the nights you would go to Jasper, but Jasper's closed. So they're going to do 2 more nights in Banff and then put you on the train, which now I believe, and you're in Canada, so I don't know for sure, but there was a binding arbitration thing that happened yesterday afternoon, and the workers were ordered to go back to work. I don't know if they went back to work today or not. I haven't checked. But we held her hand through that whole process, and they were not excited about getting on a motor coach, but they called me and texted me and emailed me yesterday. Oh my gosh, we're so glad we went to Banff. I said, you haven't seen the best yet. When did you get to Lake Louise?
No, I'm trying to think of all the times that it has happened to me where something doesn't go right, and you're scrambling if you have cell service and trying to find alternatives, and you were already way ahead of them.
My phone is in my pocket or on my desk or beside my head when I go to sleep at night, because I've had clients call me at 3:00 in the morning that they got to Rio, but their luggage didn't make it, and they're getting on a cruise ship. I spent 5 days. American Airlines had no idea where their luggage was. I spent 5 days finding their luggage. And then it was hung up in customs, so we had to fly an employee down to claim their luggage, to walk it through customs, and to fly it to Ushuaia.
Wow.
And my client called me and he goes, I have no idea what you did, but our luggage is here, and I've never been so happy to see my luggage in my life. And I said, I'll tell you all about it when you get home.
Amazing. One thing that I struggle with in business is being able to duplicate myself. You mentioned, the almost 200 years of experience you have with your team. How do you duplicate what you and your wife brought to the business when you were just by yourselves and you started bringing on these other consultants? Or you call them consultants, or you call them team members? I'm not sure.
Well, we call them advisors, consultants, whatever. But honestly, Garrett, I learned more from them than they learned from me. I mean, my number one person in the office, she's been 42 years in the business, and she's only 62 years old.
Wow. I'm doing some math in my head. Okay.
Yeah. And there's nothing about the world of travel that she doesn't know. And she knows how to get things fixed. She knows how to make things happen. She's way better than I am. I'm the out front guy that's making it rain, bringing in country club groups or yacht club groups or whatever like that. And I still do a lot of the personal one-on-one work, but we just have so much talent. We've got a lady in our office that ran the sales and marketing for a local boutique hotel here in Naples for 25 years. And she is just killing it because she knows everybody that's anybody, because this hotel was not cheap. And they all love her to pieces. And so she's brought in so much business over the last 18 months. It's just crazy. But again, she doesn't know travel, but she's got people that she can fall back on that do.
Okay. What's your criteria for bringing on another team member? Is it growth, or is it, opportunities, or maybe a different area that you're not familiar with?
Well, we're an equal opportunity employer. Those that do the work get the pay. Every one of our advisors works on their own. They're independent contractors, so they can work from home if they want to. They can work in the office if they want to. If they want to make $100,000 this year, that's up to them. We're going to keep things going. We're going to keep generating leads for them. We're going to, keep the home lights on, but they can work from wherever they want to. The concierge, the executive concierge, are the only salaried people that we have. And that's because they can't make commissions until they decide they want to, go to training and become a full-fledged travel advisor.
Can you delineate between the two again? Concierge versus the travel advisor.
Well,
I'm assuming.
think of a concierge at a hotel.
Okay.
I mean, they're there to make sure you have a wonderful experience. They know the restaurants to send you to. They know how to get from point A to point B the best way. They know to tell you when it's time to ask the bellman a question. And that's what our executive concierge do. They're there to facilitate once you've decided what you're doing and all the moving parts or most of the moving parts are in place, then they take over and start working on all the details. It's amazing because my clients that have been assigned a concierge, they don't even call me anymore. They call the concierge. Tell Rodney we want to book another trip and we want to do this, but we don't want to do it unless you're going to be our concierge.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to repeat that one more time just because so I have it in my head because I thought the consultant, the advisor is planning the entire trip, hotel, airfare, excursions, everything. Why and what does a concierge bring to that experience?
The concierge makes it all work. For example, the clients that are doing their honeymoon, they want to fly out of Miami. Well, that's not a piece of the puzzle that needed to go into place today because their honeymoon's not until late January. So on the checklist, the concierge knows that she still needs to schedule the car service to pick them up at their home and take them to the airport and to pick them up. So we don't know what their flights are yet because their flights haven't been confirmed yet. So she'll confirm the flights tomorrow. And once she knows that piece, then she can book the car service. It's the smaller things, the big vision, the trip, the hotels, the cruise ship, whatever it might be. We make those decisions. And then the concierge takes care. It's like they dot the I's and cross the T's to make sure it's a wonderful experience for everyone.
Okay. I'm guessing that that's not a service that's provided by every single travel agency out there. Or is it?
No, a lot of travel agencies are a 1 or 2 person shop and they wear all the different hats. And we're very fortunate because we've grown to the point that we can afford to have that extra level of service that really makes a complete difference in the client experience. I'm 72 years old. Memory's not what it used to be. So I've got 2 young ladies that are in their upper 40s, early 50s, sharp as a tack. They take charge. They make great decisions. They just take over and make sure that client has everything that they need.
You know, Rodney, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast was because a lot of my listeners are business people, real estate investors, those that value time and know that time is money. What would you say to them when they're looking to book with a travel consultant? What are the things that they should be looking for?
Well, I too believe that time is money, and there are a lot of things in my life that I hired done that I could easily do myself, but I don't have the aptitude or the attitude, or I just don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to cut my grass anymore. I used to love to cut my grass. I haven't cut my grass in 20 years. I'll still love the smell of fresh cut grass, but I don't have to do it anymore. I don't need to chase the lawnmower around anymore because my time's much better spent face to face with a client. And that's what I love about where our office is. We're in a community. As a matter of fact, my neighbor, when we first moved in down here 15 years ago, he said, you know, Naples is one of the few places you can move to thinking you're old and rich and be wrong about both. And that's our clients. They don't want to do it themselves so much anymore. Every once in a while, they'll say, you know, I booked a trip myself and I did this and it's a mess. Can you help us? Well, if they're a good enough client, yeah. If they're somebody just walked through the door, nah, I don't know if I want to help you or not. But one of the girls usually does.
Okay. What about business people like myself? Do you touch that subsector, or is it mainly just vacations?
Our business is probably 95% vacations, but we take care of our clients. Like I had a client the other day, and he said, "You know, I got a mess. I've got a meeting that I have to be at. I've waited till the last minute. I don't want to charter a plane, but I'm looking at chartering a plane." I go, "Well, for just for yourself, that would be nuts. So we got him taken care of. But it really is, it's more the luxury thing that we find joy in planning. I mean, if we and we do still have clients that still travel a lot for business, and they just let us know well in advance, and we book the trip, we book the car service, we book the hotel room, and they're taken care of. And that's really almost an executive concierge kind of thing. They can almost do all that stuff.
Oh, it's wonderful. Okay. Well, this has been really great. What I want to do is I'd like to ask each guest a question, and it's the same question. But this one actually, I think, might really hit home. So this is the Investing to Win podcast. How do you define success, and what does winning look like for you?
In my business, success is to have thousands of not just satisfied, but happy clients who are referring their friends and family to us. Our business, we don't advertise. It's all repeat and referrals. And that, to me, is just the ultimate compliment that we can have, is when an existing client says, hey, I want you to take care of my brother-in-law, Larry. He's a little bit of a pain in the hind end, but once you get through that crust, he's a wonderful guy. He's one of my best friends. I'd consider it a personal favor if you'd take care of him. So yeah, we will. And what was the second part of that question, Garrett?
What does winning look like for you?
Well, winning for us is always being, well, when I go to our industry meetings, I love it because I'm recognized. And when I go to our host agency meetings, I'm usually making a presentation of some kind. And I love that. I love that, the fact that people know who I am. I love the fact that people come up to me and say, hey, I got a couple of questions. Can I buy you a cup of coffee? I love that. That's winning to me. The top agency within cruise planners, and there's almost 3,000 agencies, is a friend of mine in Atlanta, and he is a workaholic. He's a fiend. We will never, ever catch him. But because I don't think that I want to work that hard, and nobody else in the agency wants to work as hard as these guys work. But they're the number one agency in the world for a major cruise line. They do more business than any other agency in the world with this one particular cruise line. So they've just got it down to a science, and it works for them. And they're both great guys, and we talk quite a bit back and forth, sharing ideas with each other. But winning doesn't mean you have to be number one. Winning means that you're enjoying the rewards of an excellent effort and an excellent adventure.
Well said. And I lied. I'm going to ask you one more question, and we're going to end with that. Don't spit out your water there. Give the listeners your top 5 recommended destinations.
Oh, wow. If you have not been to the Society, the Marquesa, and the Cook Islands, that would be destination number 1.
Okay.
It's the most beautiful place on earth, and you're going to love you're going to love number 2, because number 2 is the Western Canadian Rockies. I've been all over the world. There's no place on earth like those 2 destinations. And I would encourage them, number 3, as far as it's not really a destination, but a way of life. These mass market cruise lines are building cruise ships that are 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 passengers or more. It doesn't cost that much more to look at a luxury brand where there's 400, 500 people on the ship. The food's better, the service is better, everything is usually included. That would certainly be something. I would encourage everyone, if you haven't visited Europe, to find out where all this kind of got started, where our way of life, because our forefathers, for the most part, came here from the European continent. I love Japan, a 2-week vacation in Japan, especially if you can get there in April and see the cherry blossoms. And Australia, New Zealand, that would be number 5. If you haven't been down under, you got to go down under. And don't just go to Australia or don't just go to New Zealand while you're that far away. And it is a it's a plane ride. I tell you, from the west coast of the United States, from the time you leave until you land on the Australian continent, you lost 2 days of your life. Now, don't worry, you'll find them on the way back. You get them back. We were coming home from there a couple of years ago, and some guy said, you realize that we get home before we leave? And I said, yeah. He goes, I don't know if I want to be on that plane or not, but I sure would like to watch it take off.
Oh, that's great. No, there's a few destinations I've been in there. Australia and New Zealand, that's definitely on my list. I won't say my bucket list, but I used to say that. No, this has been really great, Rodney. I do appreciate you coming on. I think you've inspired a lot of people, myself included, and I can't wait for this episode to be live.
Well, I just have one thing to say. My friend, Dr. Philip Randall from Atlanta, he's a gerontologist, and he always says, enjoy yourself. It's later than you think. I appreciate you. Appreciate you having me on your show.
All right. Thanks very much. Take care.
Okay. You take care as well.